Hi Bratz Party Pack, it's your girl Brandy, and welcome back to my channel where we like to talk all things Bratz, MGA entertainment, and so much more. Wow, it feels amazing to be saying this intro again. Happy New Year to you all, and if it's not a Happy New Year, I hope that your year is turning around. I'm super excited to be back on this channel creating new and fresh Bratz content and so much more for you guys this year. For today's video, we are back with part 2 of our series, Is It Rarity or Is It Racism?, where we discuss and uncover and explore the world of scalpers within the doll community. I'm super excited for the new year and the new launches that Bratz has in store, and I can't wait to discuss and share them all with you on this channel. This video is pre-recorded and I filmed it a few months back. I had to take a little bit of a break from YouTube, but its message on price inequities and racism that I've observed in certain scalpers still remains the same. Scalping is still an ever-present issue, and many of their selling points is rooted in a white bias. So let's talk about it. Without further ado, let's get started with today's video. I hope you all enjoy. Hi Bratz Party Pack, welcome back to my channel where we love to talk all things Bratz, MGA entertainment, and so much more. Today we are finally back with part 2 of my series, Is It Rarity or Is It Racism?, where we explore the world of price inequities and scalpers within the doll community. If you haven't watched part 1 of my series, I highly recommend that you do so you can gain a full understanding of what we're going to be talking about today and this topic. I'll put a time card here so you guys can check it out. But if you're not familiar with me and who I am, I always like to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Brandy, and I love to discuss and uncover important topics within the doll community. I wanted to give a huge thank you to any and all of you who commented and shared your thoughts and opinions on part 1 of my series. I was so overwhelmed with the amount of support and kindness and unity that was shown in the comment section, and I just want to say I'm so grateful to have a community that can create amazing conversations like the one that we had in part 1, and I just want to give my sincerest thank yous and just everything to you guys. So much positive energy. You have no idea how much reading your comments warmed my heart and validated my experience as a Black doll collector, and hearing you all share your own stories truly affirmed to me that the issue of price inequities are obvious. Although I was filled with so much gratitude knowing that I wasn't alone in my frustration with the price inequities and the obvious racism that occurs within certain scalpers, it still saddened me that so many of my brothers and sisters within the community had to experience something like this, especially in the year of 2021. It just felt so backwards to me. How are scalpers and million-dollar corporations still being able to profit off of the complexions of Black and brown people? It really just disgusts me. And even with my extensive amount of research that I provided in part 1 of this series, there were people who still weren't getting it. And it's to be expected because there are people still out here acting like racism does not exist as a whole, which we won't talk about that in today's video, but I wasn't surprised to see the same thing within something as simple as dolls. And what I noticed from conversations of people who didn't agree with me, conversations are always limited to this manufacturing and supply and demand issue, which is clearly rooted in white bias, first of all, but you're not going to manufacture the dolls for the people that you are targeting towards. You are profiting off of the expense of other cultures, which again, this has happened in society. People were trying to do everything in their being to convince me that the actions of these companies and scalpers were not racist without providing me with any actual evidence or proof. But I'm sorry to break it to you, saying that something isn't racism doesn't make it any less racist. All too often, we allow the right fragility of society to gaslight us into thinking that racism doesn't exist. But what's always confused me is how some people get so spooked or triggered when I mention the topic of racism as it relates to the doll community, because if you really think about it, the topic should not trigger you if you're not racist. And for a lot of people, when you're accustomed to privilege, equality feels like oppression. Me being a Black girl just trying to rebuild my collection from my childhood at a fair price should not be life-altering or triggering to you in any way, shape, or form. So anyone being triggered by me bringing up this topic, it's a reflection of you, not me. Racism is an inescapable thing. Just like we live in a capitalistic society at which so many things that we participate in or we give our money to is contributing to some of the horrible things in the world, making the rich richer. The same thing goes along with racism, and a lot of people have been trying to tell me to not talk about it because it's just dolls. When someone is saying an experience that they have had regarding racism, whatever, what have you, you do not minimize them by gaslighting them to say that it doesn't exist. That's not how real change occurs. And quite frankly, many of the people who don't agree with me, their comments are divisive. You have gone as far as insulting my personal intelligence, which does absolutely nothing for the conversation that I want to have here today. Here, we respect other people's opinions, and if you don't like my opinions based off of actual facts, you can kindly click off this video. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. You don't have to watch what you don't like. I highly recommend that, and I greatly would appreciate it because you're watching something you don't like, you think that it's not true, leave. Okay? If you want to be a part of the conversation, what you should do is build your tolerance and move past your internal white bias so that real change can happen. And if you're not willing or able or wanting to do that, then do not watch this video and we won't be talking. But what you're not going to do, okay, is gaslight me and try to convince me that what I have seen, the evidence that I have presented, does not exist, because it does. Not only is it not productive or conducive to the conversation, but it's divisive. It minimizes and invalidates the experiences of not only myself, but so many others within the doll community. And it's doing more harm than it is good. Just because you're not used to this topic being brought up in the doll community or you have never experienced it does not give you the right to insert yourself or to minimize myself or others' experiences. I know that there are some people that may take issue of the idea of racism being present in doll collecting because of the nature of what we're doing and that there may not be any malice intent, but such a narrow definition of racism really misses a lot of what's going on here. And I want to read a quote that responds to that idea. "No malice needed, no inward required, just lack of concern for how the past shapes the present." Ruha Benjamin. You see, a scalper doesn't necessarily have to call me a racial slur to be racist. The overt and complete disregard to how a Black person would feel to these price points, these astronomical $1,500 price points, to something that they would like to have from their childhood, is completely egregious. And I believe that if you do not see the issue with that, you are a part of the problem. A lot of people want to make collecting completely transactional and disregard emotions entirely, and I believe that that is completely missing and negating the point of this video. This justification and this narrative of rarity has got to go, because there is no base to that when I see multiples of the same doll on different websites.
Oh my God, corny, lame, boo, tomato, I'm throwing tomatoes.
It's not adding up. The math, it's not mathing. I'm not here to condemn, to send hate, or to make anyone feel bad about anything. What I really highly suggest, if you do feel uncomfortable, is to listen. Lend your ear to these conversations so that you can learn and educate yourself. Things like this happen at a larger scale than just dolls. And I think that it's so important to understand with having conversations such as this. This should not shock or surprise you. The whole purpose and point of this video is to educate, it's to inform, so that we can have change within higher ups in this community. Who's to say that these corporations aren't watching these videos? They're not seeing our feedback. I'm going to continue to talk about these things. I will not be silenced, because if we were to go by that same logic and just stop speaking just because someone else doesn't believe them, we would not see major historical shifts when it comes to injustices that happen within society. If doing this series has taught me anything, it's to stand by what you believe in, no matter what anyone else thinks, what anyone has to say. Say what you feel, say what's true to your heart, and this is what I have been doing with the series. This is what I will continue to do. The topic of racism, it happens at such a larger scale. The sooner that more people are able to digest that the easier it will be able to understand that, oh wow, this can occur within dolls too. All too often we see Black and brown culture, specifically Black culture. Our trends have been celebrated on others and highlighted, given major platforms to others. But when it's on us, when it's on Black people, it's condemned and it's not highlighted. It's not given the same platform. So many things in society, when it comes to music, fashion, hairstyles, dances that come from Black culture. We've seen this time and time again where all these industries have profited off of the Black experience. And we are going to be doing a deep dive of how specifically Black culture has influenced society at large today. We're going to be talking about fashion brands, music, hairstyles, and dances, and how these things affect society and how that affects the doll community. Because, like it or not, this is not just about dolls here. Dolls for years, since the ancient times, have been used as a representation of all kinds: religious duties, historical figures. Certain representation has been rooted in a white bias. This same white bias has trickled down to the doll community. Major doll lines that take from Black culture. It's important for us to remember and understand where these fashion statements, hairstyles, and vernaculars come from. Long before Bratz, before the culture vultures and appropriators of the world, there was and still are Black people who exist and create from a place of authenticity that was birthed from a place of hardship and uncertainty. Black culture has now been a thing that has been commoditized by major corporations at the expense of real Black lives and experiences. Whether we want to acknowledge it or not, it's not just a hairstyle and it's not just a fashion statement. Beloved things that many of us relish and enjoy today is a derivative of Black culture and the Black experience. So let's start with streetwear, a now popularized fashion movement making up to $185 billion per year, originally emerged in the 1980s as a result of the injustice that many young Black and brown people endured due to President Reagan's war on drugs. This criminalization of drugs in various American cities led to the mass incarceration of Black and Latino men, since crack was readily available in urban centers. Streetwear is so huge now, and it's extremely white and male-dominated in so many ways, even though it has cultural roots to Blackness. And where else can we find this trend? Well, believe it or not, it's present in popular doll lines that you probably know and love, like Rainbow High, LOL Surprise, and even Bratz utilize their close proximity to Blackness and Black culture to gain a profit. So yes, it's not just a fashion statement, and it's not just a hairstyle. It's survival tactics that Black and brown people utilize to navigate in a world that criminalized them for just being who they are. Now, this is not to say that brands and corporations had entirely negative and malintent when incorporating these elements of Black and brown cultures within their lines, but this doesn't seem like a coincidence. When opportunities arise to incorporate actual Black and brown people in a culture that they have developed, the opportunity of true representation is missed entirely. The issue is that time and time again we see Black and brown culture being condemned, chastised, and criminalized on actual Black and brown people, but on others it's celebrated and given major platforms too. Hairstyles originating in survival, such as cornrows and plaits, were utilized by Black women to maintain healthy hair during periods of time where they could only do their hair once a week on Sundays. During the period of slavery, Black women were not allowed to do their hair during the week. So Sundays were the days where they had to develop and incorporate styles such as those so that they were able to operate throughout their week of hard work and labor. These same hairstyles used as a funky new fashion trend or an urban new style are the same things that turn actual Black women away from job opportunities within the military and in the professional workplace. So for many of us, especially speaking from Black doll collectors, this is not just about hairstyles. It's about fitting into places and spaces that originally never welcomed us to begin with. And unfortunately, it seems that society values Black culture, but not actual Black people. Historically, many things developed and created by Black people were unable to sell with a Black face. Rock, for example, was a derivative of jazz and blues created by Chuck Berry, but because society didn't seem him valuable due to his blackness. The popular rock genre is associated with iconic figures like Elvis Presley. We can see a similar trend to this occur in even the doll community, with brands such as Rainbow High only just recently in the year 2020 incorporating their first dark-skinned doll, Crystal Bailey. And even Bratz with their Pretty and Punk line, completely leaving out a vital character, Sasha, which could have been a great opportunity for representation for the brand, being that they utilize black culture so much in their product lines. Even down to the African American vernacular, which is often referenced as Black English or Black Ebonics. According to Hawaii EDU, some scholars contend that AAVE developed out of contact between speakers of the West African languages and speakers of vernacular and English varieties. According to such a view, West Africans learned English on plantations in the southern coastal states. So in other words, African American vernacular was used as another mechanism that Black people utilized to navigate and survive in a world that was not always welcome to them. We see often in pop cultures the usage and the slang of Black culture, and we don't always necessarily know where it comes from. So now that we understand Black culture and some of its roots within society, what's a resolution to this problem that we're facing within the doll community? And how is it connected to racist scalpers on third-party reselling websites? Well, to answer the first question, a huge resolution to this problem could be just simple respect. From doing this series, I noticed that there seemed to be a huge lack in respect in experiences, boundaries, and cultures. I believe that due to the lack of knowledge that some people may have about Black culture and the Black experience, a lot of things are being spoken from a place of flat out ignorance, and that leaves a lot of room for things to get misconstrued, diluted, and just flat out disrespected. To respect others does not mean to necessarily agree with every single thing that someone says, and that's not what I mean by that statement. But what I am saying is to validate others by listening before speaking and really being able to critically think about the topics that we are speaking about. I think that it's incredibly dense to still come to the conclusion that it's a supply and demand issue after gathering further knowledge and further education on Black culture and its influence in society and the doll community. I'm making this video so that everyone can be held accountable. The scalpers, major doll corporations, even members within our community that may accidentally or knowingly participate within these tendencies, I want everyone to understand, educate, and move forward so that real change can happen. Speaking your mind is not a bad thing because people are listening. They need to acknowledge our experiences, whether good, bad, or indifferent. They're ours, and I should be able to speak my mind when and ever so I please. And this is just me speaking off the cuff right now, but the same people who were talking about, oh, you guys complain, this, that, and the third, a closed mouth does not get fed. If you do not say what is an issue, then nothing will be resolved. So I will be speaking about this topic till the end of time because I do not care. Like, something got to be done about this scalping. Like, I need to get my collection. And lastly, this is not to disregard the white dolls that are also at a high price point. I am mentioning this because it is few and far between that I will see a lighter doll be expensive than I see the Black Sasha dolls or Felicia dolls more expensive, hard to come by, and if you do, it's $500 to $1,000. And I'm also making this video for my other fellow Black doll collectors, Chocolate Dolly, Official Bunny Boo, Jamari, Dolly Comics, there's so many, y'all, I'm sorry. I'm doing this video for my fellow Black doll collectors. I'm sick and tired of people invalidating our Black experiences, but still relishing in the culture that our ancestors have cultivated for years, and we have to talk about this. It's something that needs to be stopped, and scalpers are done all 2022. And if I see a scalper, I will call it out. I don't care. But let's get back to the video. My issue is not about sharing our culture with the world. I love seeing other people celebrating and appreciating Black culture. But the issue here is that you want our trends, you want our hairstyles, you want our dances, but you don't want the Black people attached to it. And that's the issue. That's the problem here. Too many times we see people taking our culture, but excluding us from the major opportunities that our culture has opened the doors to. you see. And we see people within the world, within society, that don't give Black people the credit that they deserve. And the reason why this is connected to dolls is because, if we're being frank, Black people and brown people, people of color, have built Bratz brand to the success that it is today. This manufacturing issue, if it is a manufacturing issue, it makes it more racist and it makes it even worse. I stand by my statement. I'm not going to be convinced of otherwise. I have given my facts and evidence on the matter, so I can't unsee what I have seen. It's about the exclusivity that society often does from excluding Black individuals from the cultures that belong to them and profiting off of them at the same time. And if you can understand how that happens within society, you can see that, oh wow, of course this would happen within dolls. And that's my entire point of this video. I really hope that I was able to educate, inform, never condemn or send hate to anyone. I've always wanted to highlight this topic because, again, I do want to see change within the community, and I feel like we can if we highlight important topics like this, and I encourage you to do the same. I really hope you all enjoyed today's video, and I will see you all in my next one. Bye guys.
Everybody now, time to show the whole world what we're all about. We the girls with a passion.